Hello and welcome to All Starts That Way, a podcast in which Leeds fans cast their combined eye over going on at Elland Road, giving scrutiny to the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United. I'm Martin Riley and I'm joined today by Dan Holdsworth. Dan, how are you doing, mate? It's been a while since you've been in the pod.
It has. I've been a bit of a busy boy, really. I've been in Leeds today with work, so that's nice for a change. And I've not eaten yet, but I'm looking forward to spag bol before you ask. After the podcast.
Excellent. I'm also having some sort of pasta. It's a kind of a macaroni and cheese, but with some added pancetta, and I'm not sure, something else with it, maybe.
Don't like macaroni cheese.
Yeah,
I like cheese.
You
I like
before.
pasta, but it's just a weird. Yeah, just something about the combo I can't roll with. But just a really rubbishy tinned version I used to get as a kid, and it's just put me off. Maybe
you should try and make your own. It's so much different when if you do it your own.
I'm sure it is.
Putting some garlic in it. It works really well with garlic. But yeah,
I tend to prefer more like lighter tomatoey pasta dishes, or like oil and seafood or whatever. So I tend to prefer that direction of pasta anyway. So there's a bit of that in it. Anyway,
that is all good.
It's not all pasta, aren't we?
We might as well be, to be honest. We might as well be.
Yeah.
We aren't here to talk about pasta. We are here to talk about Arsenal, who we face on Saturday, and this one is at Elland Road. It'd be good to be back at Elland Road and to face them. Hopefully it'll go a bit different to the last fixture, but we'll soon see. Mm-hmm. We do not have an opposition guest this time around. We did have one for the reverse fixture, and I don't think a whole lot will have changed Arsenal-wise. So if you want to listen to the reverse preview, go back. The guy who was on there was really good. I think it was a guy from the Pot Shot Pod who was excellent. So it's just us for today, but I don't think a whole lot has changed. So we should be fine to get through Arsenal. So as I said, we've already previewed Arsenal, so we won't go too much into them. Most people are aware they're still managed by Mikel Arteta, and they are still top of the league. And yeah, that's about all you can really say about Arsenal. Big thing for them is their set pieces, which everyone's been making a massive deal about and saying how the Premier League has gone backwards because the team who's at the top of the league is using set pieces to their advantage. So yeah, what are your feelings on that whole debate, by the way?
Well, it's these. I always think these tactical trends are kind of cyclical, aren't they? Like most trends, like clothes, anything really, music. There's often the things that come around. Like the whole league's gone very kind of direct, hasn't it? Quite set piece heavy. We've seen that with Leeds, haven't we? If we compare the team last season to this, compared to the last time I came up with Bielsa, it's just a way different way of playing football. No less fun. I'm enjoying it just as much, almost as much this season. I do feel, the Premier League's gone big, power athletes, hasn't it? Set pieces, the ball. I think there's been stats bouncing around this week about like the ball being able to play more for everybody apart from Forest or something in the whole league. It's like the ball's in play for 56 minutes per 90 rather than 60 last year or whatever. I forget the number exactly, but it's that kind of magnitude. So I think there's definitely a direction within the Premier League. It'd be really interesting to see how at the later stage of the Champions League, once we get through the kind of qualifying stuff, how the English teams do in Europe, if that power translates to dominance there. Like when English teams have been technically playing more technical football, if you like, more possession-based stuff, the Pep way, if you like, and variations on that, they've been dominating in Europe. It'd be interesting to see what this new Premier League tactical meta does in Europe. So, yeah, but Arsenal very much are a big physical team that can play football, and that's why they're top. Basically, so
100%. I do agree. Like you say, it is cyclical, and we are just in a power and pace and strength era at the moment, and that goes hand in hand with set pieces. So it kind of does make sense that that is something which is being utilised by a lot more teams this season, including, of course, ourselves at Big Bastards FC. Although maybe Arsenal are the true Big Bastards FC, but we'll see on that one. So in terms of their transfer activity, they haven't actually brought in any new players this January. I think they did all of their business that they needed to do in the summer. They were very active. So
got a big squad, haven't they?
Yeah, they do. And the only outgoing transfer was Ethan Waneri, who went out on loan. So we'll leave that area to go and get into the good stuff. So impression, speak to me about Arsenal, Dan. How is it they look to create and get to the final third, etc.?
So for a few years, like I said before, Arteta kind of came from Man City, didn't he? And they were kind of playing somewhat kind of like pet ball, weren't they? Kind of very much possession orientated, trying to control the opposition, that kind of stuff. They're generally like a 4-2-3-1 team. I think they still are for the most part. and they would have one fullback who's maybe the more defensive fullback. So in previous years, it was Ben White, sort of being a right fullback, straight right centre back in possession, and the left back would have a bomb on or come into midfield and combine. I think we're still seeing that. So what they'll do is they'll generally have a back three, and they'll play a lot of. I think this season, what they're trying to do is they're trying to bait teams out a little bit more this year than they have in previous seasons, and like make space in midfield to then play over the top or to play through the lines. So what you might see is them playing like a lot of bounce passes, so up to like the centre mid. Rice, is it Zubimendi the centre mid?
Zubimendi, yeah.
Zubimendi, Zubimendi, and Rice. Zubimendi's like the deep playmaker, basically. They'll play up to Zubimendi and they'll be bouncing back to the centre half, trying to like draw the opposition onto them. And then if the opposition midfielders push up with Zubimendi, for argument's sake, then someone like Odegaard or Saka or whoever will drop into that kind of space in between. They'll try and ping it through and turn from there. So it's like these artificial transitions.
Yep.
Another thing they'll do is they do a little bit what De Zerbi's Brighton did, where the centre backs will put the foot on the ball and like stay there and wait for someone to come and then start building the play. So they're just looking to control the ball and and move up the pitch in their own way. But they'll if a team sits in a low block or quite a compact medium sort of low block, Arsenal are quite prepared just to be patient and try and draw them out and be patient themselves and eventually wait for their chance for when their position come out. So yeah, they're just on about dragging you out and making space for their good attacking players. I think they're a little bit more prone to go long this season, particularly when they have Gyökeres up front. I'm not sure he will play against us, but they're happy to go longer to him when he does play. So they do have a longer ball in the locker if they need it, but they tend to be more fairly quick transition on the ground, into between the lines. So that's the general approach in possession.
Yep, that's exactly what I would have said too. And when they're not able to break down a low block with the slow and patient stuff, and they win a corner, then that's also where one of their other strengths come this season. They are one of the few teams who have created more set piece XG than us this season. I think they are first in the league for that. So yeah, they're a big threat from set pieces. How about out of possession? I think it's been pretty well publicised how strong they are out of possession this season.
Yeah, they're just obviously really well drilled, and they're really, really athletic, and they've got guys that are really good one-on-one, but in duels as well. So just a really, really, really good combination. So they tend to be quite aggressive. So like for example, if they're in their 4-2-3-1, Saka might push up. So the centre forward might go against the opposition right centre back, left side from Arsenal's perspective, and Saka might push up on the other centre back and really squeeze the pitch, and the right full back might push up behind Saka and pick up the guy he was picking up, and they'll really try and squeeze over one side of the pitch and win the ball high. But because they're so athletic and so good, they're generally able to get back into their shape if that doesn't work. So I think I would expect them to be quite aggressive with us and really try and squeeze. When the ball goes out to Rodon at right centre back, for them to really flip over onto him, for example. It's going to be quite interesting what they try and do to Leeds if they maybe don't do that, because Leeds, are generally speaking, have been happy to go long, haven't they? More recently, and Leeds have been fairly happy. I mean, we saw that in the early against Everton, didn't we? Everton were reasonably aggressive early in the game, but I thought Leeds were fairly smart and just picked a good moment to ping over the top of Everton and get on the pitch. Arsenal will see that, so it just makes you wonder what their triggers will be, what their kind of pressing triggers will be. But do expect them to be aggressive at times and looking to win the ball off us when we do try and play. I think because Leeds are at home, we'll try and play a bit, won't we, as well? So Arsenal will have some triggers in there for when they go and be aggressive.
Yep, exactly. And I would probably expect us to go long over it, but we'll get into that a bit later on for one our stuff.
Yeah.
But just to cover their recent form, so their most recent game, they actually lost against Manchester United. I think it had been the first loss that they'd had in a while. So they lost 3-2. It looks like Manchester United got a bit fortunate with their finishing in this one, although I did not watch the game. I will stress. I'm not sure. Did you watch it?
No, I didn't. I've heard a couple of long range goals, a couple of low XG long range goals, nice, well worked goals. But it was one of those games that I think if you play it again, Arsenal come out on top. I don't think there's a ton to worry about from Arsenal's performance levels, from what I've heard on other podcasts and read.
Yeah.
So obviously it's annoying for Arsenal because they're chasing the title. They can't afford to drop points, but I don't think the performance dropped, so I don't think we should get too hopeful in their performance levels dropping all of a sudden.
Nope, that makes sense. And the other games before that, they had 2 draws before this one against Manchester United, lost against Manchester United. A draw against Forest. That looks like they created so much, and that they just got diced in that one, didn't they? I think.
I saw a little bit of that one, yeah, and they were really dominant. I didn't see all of it. I watched about half an hour of it, maybe, and they were just totally dominant. I was just like, "Come on, Arsenal, when are you going to score?" It was just, a lot of stuff breaking down, final pass, that kind of stuff from the bit I saw, like kind of a frustrating. And I know they put up like almost 3 xg, which is a lot.
Yeah,
but it didn't feel like a 3 xg performance. It felt like a team with a lot of ball, but not much final product. But like I say, I didn't watch the whole game, so yeah.
Nope.
And Forest can make a game stodgy, can't
they? Definitely can, especially under big Sean Dyche. And then they had a draw against Liverpool before that. That was at home, so they would have been disappointed in that one, I think. And they didn't really create a whole lot in that. Well, neither team looked to have. That looks like a very dull game. And then the 3 games before that were wins: 3-2 against Bournemouth, 4-1 against Villa, and 2-1 against Brighton. So they're at the Arsenal top of the league. A little bit of a wobble recently, but they are still top by 4 points. Crucially, in this matchup against us, are you expecting them to do anything different against us?
No, I think typical top of the league team, they come and impose their style. And you wouldn't expect any different. So no, I think that they've got their way of playing, and I think it's effective for different oppositions. They can play through, they can handle direct teams, the big physical, the whole thing. So no, they'll play their way. The questions about when they try and impose themselves in the game, and when they sit off and let us try and it's the ebb and flow of the game rather than it's the when they do their thing rather than actually doing their thing. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, yeah. And one thing I wondered is, obviously in the last fixture against Arsenal, we was in a different shape, of course. So we was in the 4-2-3-1, which we were accustomed to with Daniel Farke. So do you expect that we've got more players in the deeper areas to make it a bit better for us to withstand a press from Arsenal, or do you reckon we'll just go straight long over that?
I mean, one thing I like about the wing-back system, whether it's 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, is I think it's enabled us to get out and build quite easily. We've always got we seem to have an extra person at the back, and we're quite good at transitioning that person forward as we build. I don't feel we get caught in possession deep, and we don't get stuck as much as we used to do in the 4-3-3. And if that's fair, but that's we saw how easy we play for Everton's press, or over the top of Everton's press, won the ball and then build from there. I think we're quite good at playing up out to Calvert-Lewin and getting the second ball and then building and playing football from there. So the football looks quite good sometimes, doesn't it, the final third? So it'd be kind of interesting. I don't know if Arsenal will change anything about how they play in terms of us, but I feel like we'll have a lot more joy than we did against them early in the season of playing through them. Just because I think we've got more combinations and shapes, and we have more options for forwards to drop in and link up and overload, and it feels like a more flexible system somehow.
Nope, definitely. And I would agree that this does give us a bit of an advantage. I just while you was talking there, look at the times when Arsenal have played against a back 3. They've played against them probably more than what I was expecting. They've played against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games this season against back 3 or back 5s, whichever you want to refer to it as. Some in the Cup, some in the Champions League, some in the Premier League, and they haven't lost a single one. And who
have they played against? The Premier League ones, yeah, just the Premier League ones.
Brighton was a 3-4-3. Spurs was a 3-4-3. Palace was a 3-4-3. Man United was a 3-4-3. Wolves was 3-5-2. Inter in the Champions League was 3-5-2. Then the other one was Brentford, 5-3-2. They won every single one of those games besides the EFL Cup quarterfinal, which they drew against Palace and then won on penalties. So yeah, they've done quite well against back threes.
I was just thinking that the team that we're most like is probably Palace, isn't it, at the moment, in terms of the system, especially when we play the 3-4-3, with the kind of narrow wingers sort of thing. So I do wonder about maybe that's instructive. Perhaps.
Yep, potentially so. But I just thought I'd look that up, see if there was anything in there. But yeah, they've done very well against back threes overall. But yeah, Palace is a good analog for us, so who knows what that means, but we'll soon see when we play them. And now to get into their standout players, obviously we could sit here and talk about their players all day, but tell me your top 2 players who you think would be the most dangerous against us.
I'm really well. To me, the best two players are the centre backs and the set piece kings. Now, not necessarily the players I'm looking forward to seeing the most, but I mean, are they the best centre back player in the world football?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, they're in the conversation, aren't they? You know, maybe the PSG centre backs are better. I don't know, or something like that. But yeah, they're just absolutely dominant, aren't they? Those two, and there's a lot of height around them and power around them, so they're not on their own. But you know, they're really so dominant. So just to be a bit less boring, I'm really looking forward to seeing Zubamendi. I've seen him on the telly. I'm going to be there on Saturday. I think he looks like a really fun player, like a really like traditional old-fashioned sort of deep playmaker, and I love that. That's not something we see too often, so I'm really interested to see him. I'm not. I'm a bit of a Rice doubter. I don't think he's as good.
Oh,
I think he's a superb athlete, but I just think he's that level down. It's a bit like Bellingham, isn't he? It's like the England lads, isn't it? Like absolute beast of an athlete, like Bellingham, absolutely dominant. But I just wonder if they're just to be that very, very top level, like people talk about them, that really elite, very top level World Cup winners, Champions League winners. They need to be technically a bit stronger. So, you know, I think Rice lacks that. So obviously centre backs and Zubamendi, the one I'm looking forward to seeing. Saka's out of form this year, isn't he? He's not having a great season by his standards. Although still very good.
Probably by
still really dangerous.
Yeah, probably by his standards, it's not as good as what he has been. Let's have a look at what he's done. So, 4 goals, 3 assists. That's similar to Brendan Aronson.
So yeah, it's not. You expect more from him. I think by his standards, that's low. Now, obviously, he's still a good player and he's still like obviously important to their team. But yeah, maybe we're playing him at a good time. Perhaps watch him score a hat trick. Now I've said that.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's going to be Declan Rice scoring a free kick and Saka scoring a brace. But yeah, I'd agree with the players that you said. They're 100%. Their best players are their 2 centre backs, and I think a lot of their success is built on how dominant those two are. Because when you've got players who are large space defenders like them, it makes your life in terms of out of possession stuff a lot easier, because you've got those players who can just dominate. They've got the pace to get back quickly. They've got everything you want from a modern day centre back, and they also fit the current meta in the Premier League. So yeah, fantastic players. And one of the players I love for Arsenal is Martin Odegaard. He's just he's good, absolutely impressive technician, and I do enjoy watching him play. I'm not going to enjoy him playing against us, of course, but
I mean, what I will say is that, like, obviously I've done a little bit of Rice slander, and I'm not saying Rice is bad. I think Rice is a really good player, obviously, but just from a very top level. But Zubamendi's very technical, Odegaard's very technical, Rice is very athletic, so you've got a nice balance, haven't you, there, in terms of loads of power, great pressers. I mean, Odegaard, for not being a big guy, is a great presser, isn't he? He's really athletic, puts himself around.
Intense,
intense, yeah. I mean, in the way Aronson's really intense, you know, that kind of thing, you know, because obviously they don't carry as much weight, they can get around the pitch more, and got bigger engines and all that kind of stuff relative to the body size. But yeah, Rice is the power athlete in there, isn't he? And it complements that technicality in there. So yeah,
exactly. The sort of on Rice, I do see the points that you're saying. I do like Rice. I think he's a quality player, but he's definitely not one of the world's best.
I love him if he's our player.
Of course.
I'm just talking about the very, very elite. You know what I mean? It's just obviously a great player. But
I'm with you. The one thing I don't understand about Rice, though, is how he suddenly got this moniker as being a dead ball specialist when he scored 2 free kicks in his whole career. That doesn't track with me. Because he scored a couple of nice ones recently. I think we were both in the same game as well, if I remember rightly.
Does he take the corners?
I think he does. But I think it's more people been saying how good he is at free kicks, like direct free kicks, and I've seen a lot of that recently. But yeah, that's a total side thing now. So last thing on Arsenal is to just go through a few stats. So because we no longer have FBref, we can't use their stats, and I've been trying out something a bit different. The Ben Griffiths Streamlit app. We've recently shared something from that on Twitter and Blue Sky, and the link to it is on there. So if anyone wants to have a play around with it, it's really fun to use, and it's got a lot of data on there. So here's some stats on Arsenal that I pulled out. So their XG against the whole league, they're second in the league for total XG, 2.39 XG on average they create. Set piece XG, the first with 0.47 per 90. Open play XG, they're fourth. So that's definitely shows to me that the more of the focus is on their set pieces. They're definitely first for that, and there's quite a big gap between first and second on that one. And the I went to the open play. The XG difference is first, so they're plus 1.3 for the XG difference. So yeah, that goes to show that it's not just the XG that they're good at, also the XG against. They're also top for that 1.09 XG against conceded per game. Set piece XG against, again first, only 0.09 set piece XG per game is conceded. That is just a crazy low amount of set piece XG to concede. I think that's probably down to how well they stopped teams from getting set pieced in the first place. I think remembering that game against us, they were very good at limiting teams from getting set pieces. And same for the open play XG against first again, so they're just totally dominant when it comes to stopping teams from having a lot of XG against them. One other interesting one is high recoveries against. So this is one that I've not seen elsewhere before. So it was nice to get some data which I've not seen. So it's basically how many high recoveries other teams have against them, and they're also first in the league for that. So that either means to me one of two things: either they're very press resistant, which it could well be the case, or they aren't pressed very often. So yeah, I don't think many teams would look to play Arsenal and think, yeah, we're going to press them aggressively, because that's entirely what they want. So yeah,
I think they are press resistant. From what I've seen and what I've watched preparing for this, I see they're quite effective at playing round and baiting opposition and playing around them. You know, the way they position and the structured build up. So they're good at that. But yeah, teams are pressing them much either. So I think both are and can be true. I think if a team that does press them might struggle.
No,
yeah,
it makes sense. And then the final bit of data was on their pressing. So their PPDA is second most intense in the league, 10.79 is the passes per defensive action. And the high recoveries is third in the league. So there was a couple of teams who were ahead of them. Brighton was one of them. I can't remember who the other one was. But yeah, so it's not the most intense press in the league. Yes,
Bournemouth, probably.
Bournemouth, that was it. Yeah, Bournemouth and Brighton were the two. So yeah, they're not the most intense team in the league, but they are definitely up there. So, and as we found out in the last game, they can cause problems for any side with their high press.
Yep.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the Leeds part of the analysis. So first of all, the lineup for us, Dan. What are you expecting that to look like?
So there's been a press conference today, hasn't there? And this Goodmanson's got a fighting chance of getting back according to Fark. So to me, the question is unchanged, or does Goodmanson come back in? Because I don't think the forward line is going to play Aronson, isn't he? He's going to start Ampadu, Stack, all those guys. So the question to me is, does Goodmanson come back in? And if Goodmanson does come back in, does he drop James Justin and keep Bornau in for his aerial power, or does he put Justin back in just because obviously Justin's having a good spell at the moment? He played right centre back, didn't he, against Fulham, and did a pretty good job, to be fair. I was pleasantly surprised with that. Now, my worry would be obviously Arsenal's aerial threat, and I think for all Bornau didn't have the best game at Everton. I think aerially was good, and I think aerially is good, and obviously that's a worry for Arsenal. So my preference would be to keep Bornau in for this game because of the set piece threat. He offers us a bit of set piece threat, and obviously would counter theirs a little bit. So my preference would be probably unchanged. Or my preference in terms of defensively would be unchanged, and I expect like Aronson to stay in with DCL up front and Stack and Ampadu and probably Gruev. Although again, I would prefer Longstaff, but I think he'll stick with his boy Gruev. So yeah, unchanged most likely, but there's a small chance of Goodmanson coming in, and then we'll see.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I think he'll keep Justin in even if Goodmanson is available, because he did well in the last game, and I think Farker likes rewarding good performances, so I think he'll probably keep him in. But it also wouldn't surprise me if Goodmanson did start though, because he does offer us a lot in an attacking sense. But yeah, I agree with all the rest of what you said. There's not likely to be many changes here, and we'll stick with what has been working for us. And what players do you think will cause Arsenal the most problems? This is a difficult one, but is there any our players who you think could cause them issues?
Listeners, please don't laugh at me now. But if we can get Aronson into the sort of space that he got against Everton in that first half, I think tactically, if we can get him into those positions between the lines and working, that might that could be effective. Like, for spells, Aronson has been effective, hasn't he, between the lines? Like turning in and driving into space, and his decision making generally has been a bit better. Now, Aronson's a million miles away from Arsenal's quality. Let's be real, but tactically, it's been interesting how we've got him into a lot of good positions, and is generally speaking exploited that quite well. So if we can do that, that will be a way of, upsetting Arsenal and maybe winning some of our set pieces, some attacking set pieces for ourselves. So there's that. I think Calvert-Lewin probably met his matches with these centre backs, but
Could be.
again,
Yep.
Calvert-Lewin didn't win many aerial battles against Everton, but I don't think he necessarily needed to. We were better than Everton, or certainly the first half. We were better than Everton at winning the second balls, weren't we? We were really good at winning the second balls. Aronson was and Stack was. So again, if Calvert-Lewin can just disrupt and we can get onto the second balls, I could see Stack dominating against Zubimendi and Odegaard and those sort of guys. I think we've got maybe a slight, not against Rice, but against the other guys, we might have a slight sort of physical presence advantage in midfield, so maybe we can win second balls and go from there. I mean, there'd be an argument for playing Longstaff for that, wouldn't there? Really, instead of what's he called, the little skinny guy,
Gruev.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his name there.
The little skinny Bulgarian. That's his new name now.
Yeah, the little skinny guy. Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be second balls in it. We're going to have to just go old school, aren't we, on them, and hope we just get a moment. Aronson gets in the ball between the lines. He can feed someone. Wing back just picks up a bouncing ball, the far stick, and puts it in. We're looking for that, aren't we? Really. So it's a tactical change, isn't it? Does a runner, does an Okafor coming on late, running at them, maybe have a bit of joy? Perhaps, tired legs.
Yeah,
that could be an area. Do we get a set piece from Buonanotte late on, like a left foot set piece that's a bit different? Maybe I'm talking fine margin stuff out here. Let's get to Arsenal.
Yeah, that's all you've got to really say. That is the fine margin stuff, and yeah, we've got to hope for a bit of luck falling our way sometimes as well. But on the other side of things, who do you think will struggle in this one? Who do you think in particular could struggle?
I mean, set pieces. I don't think we're for all our set piece power, we're not necessarily the best defensive set piece team. Like Newcastle give us a hard time, didn't they? They were dangerous from corners and set pieces in that game. Sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't. I just wonder a little bit about us getting dragged around, especially with BL being missing. So I wonder if the likes of Ampadu, who are not the tallest, might get caught out by some of their big guys, that kind of thing, from set pieces. And the other thing is sometimes we get caught narrow in general in our defensive structure. So I wonder if quick switches to Trossard and Saka, big switches might give them opportunity to be one-on-one against our fullbacks. And for all I love our fullbacks, they're not Saka level, maybe Trossard level closer. But, if Saka can get isolated up against Justin or Goodmanson, whoever's at left wing back, you might have a bit of joy if they can get that switch going. So that's how I think we struggle.
No, and I would 100% agree. And I just want to add one little thing on the players who could do all right in this one. I'm looking at Jayden Bogle. If in the time when Hincapie is, or if it is Hincapie or Lewis Skelly, potentially there could be some space for him to get into behind that in counter-attacking situations. I'm thinking him and Aronson combining on that flank. If Aronson moves over to the right side, he has been favouring the left recently, I think.
Everton, he was very less dominant, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Kind of picking up the Okafor position, wasn't he? When Okafor's played in the striker, he still drifted left, and Aronson basically copied Okafor, didn't he, effectively? But yeah, they could flip it around. And yeah, it's a really good shout, actually. Yeah, we're going to get more joy down there left, if anywhere, on the counter and that kind of stuff.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. But I think that's also the side that Declan Rice usually works on, isn't it, for them? He'll be dealing with that side out of possession as well, won't he?
Yeah,
I think he's left-sided of their attacking, their central midfielders, I think.
Yeah, he's a bit of a good safety valve, isn't he?
But yeah, basically, we've got some players who may be able to damage them, but it's going to take a lot of work to do it. And top form.
It's going to be moments, isn't it? If we get an opportunity to press them and do it successfully, or win a second ball, and it's going to be like a really intense moment where we can just overload them, overpower them. Stack can run over the top of Zubimendi, like I said, or someone, and play the ball in for somebody. It's that, isn't it? It's just those moments, really intense moments. We might just get something. That's what we're hoping for.
I agree 100%. And do you think there's going to be any changes to our tactics for this one, or do you think it's going to be like it has been against the other top sides, like when we played against Chelsea and Liverpool, that kind of stuff?
I think it'll be much the same. I think there's no reason to change, is there?
No.
I think occasionally against those teams we have been aggressive and we have got in their faces and pressed. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't do that in this game, as long as we're careful and clever about when we do and when we don't. Like against Fulham, it was like we got aggressive with them in the second. I mean, no, obviously Fulham a different level of opposition, but we were at our best in that game, weren't we, at home when the crowd got up and we got in their faces and were aggressive.
Yep.
There will come a point in this game where we need to take the game to Arsenal. So it's just about being clever in that kind of stuff. But when Arsenal, particularly early in the game and maybe after half time, or sort of times when we have conceded, we need to just be careful, don't we? And and just pick our moments and maybe sit off in a lower block in those situations just to absorb that pressure, and then look to go at Arsenal when maybe they're in a off moment or whatever.
Indeed, I would agree with that too. And final question, what will this game of football look like, and where do you think it will be won or lost?
Refs, I mean, I know we don't like talking about refs, but it's going to be like winning set pieces, isn't it, for both teams and stuff. So, how the game is refed, if it's going to be, will the ref let the game flow, or we get a fussy ref that's given a lot of set pieces and stuff? If it becomes a bit bitty and annoying and angry, I don't know, does that benefit us or them? That's an interesting question, isn't it, really? Perhaps a bitty game suits us, so I wonder if we try and make it bitty and physical and horrible and get like Arteta wound up and all that kind of stuff. So if we can do that, there's a world where we win a scrappy bitty game. If we go toe to toe with them and try and play football like we saw at the Emirates, then it's curtains for Leeds United.
No, 100%. And I do, for what it's worth, I do not think Farker will decide to do that in this one. I think he will have learned his lesson from the last one. So yeah, I would agree. I think Arsenal will dominate possession, and we will most likely be looking to attack in transition, trying hopefully to limit set pieces to them. But they've got their ways and means to get those, even if we're trying to stop them. And I think this will really hinge on, like you said before, on moments. And if we can, I think, as bad as this is to say, I think it's going to take a slice of luck for us to get anything out of this one. It's like similar to the way we got a point from Liverpool, isn't it? They should have scored their when it was Ekitike, however you say his name, when he missed that open header.
Ekitike, I think.
Ekitike, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So when he missed that header, that was our slice of luck in that game. So if we can get something similar to happen in this one, either we score a long distance goal from someone, that'd be lovely, or they miss one. Either way, I'm not really expecting any points from this one, but any points would be lovely if we were somehow able to get them. But I think that's about all we've got time for, unless you've got anything else you want to add before we go, Dan?
No, I'm good. I'm looking forward to it, though, actually. I quite like seeing good teams. I'm going to the game.
100% enjoy it. I'm going to be working, unfortunately. So yeah, that's going to be fun. If it's quiet, I might be able to watch bits in between, but who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so a few things. The quick reminder that the website for our Patreon is patreon.com/ASAW Patreon. We donate to the Leeds Food Bank as part of our Patreon revenue. Their website, if you want to donate to, is leedsnorthandwest.foodbank.org.uk. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube, we would be incredibly grateful. We are putting out as many of the pods out on the YouTube as we can, and Alfie puts a lot of work into editing them and getting them up. So any likes or subscribes or comments, anything you want, even if you don't plan to watch it, just give it a subscribe. It doesn't hurt you, and it helps us out a lot. But that's all we've got time for today. We'll be back with a review of this game, and then the game following that. I didn't note down what the next game is. Who is it, Dan?
Oh, we've got Forest soon, haven't we?
Forest, yes.
I'll tell you, if you bear with me. We've got Arsenal. Looking at my little calendar thing, diary thing. Yeah, Forest next Friday.
Forest
a week on Friday. Yeah, week on Friday. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, Forest after that. And Arthur says thank you very much to Dan.
No worries, Martin. Cheers.
And thank you as well, dear listeners. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy the game. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.